Hello everybody, welcome back to another tutorial. I am Cybernary, and at the request of several members of my server, I am doing a tutorial slash mod spotlight on Tinker's Construct. So I have put together several of the recipes and how you go about using this mod. And I hope this is beneficial to everybody who watches this, not only those who play on Cybcraft, but anybody who's wanting to get into the Tinker's Construct mod, because it does have a lot of great things that you can do in the game to further your Minecraft game. So, as to get started, let's talk about our books. When you first spawn in a world that has Tinker's Construct loaded, you'll get this first brown book right here called Materials and You, and it will talk about your what you could do with Tinker's Construct, and it'll start giving you a few very basic recipes. Now, you may not know what these recipes are at this moment, but some of them are very helpful. Some of them even I haven't played around with too much, but these recipes will be going over step by step. If you do find yourself without this book, there are a couple different ways you could remake it, and we'll go over those as well. So, but I do want to let you guys know that you shouldn't have to craft any of these books. These books should come to you naturally as you progress through the mod, and as you make each one of these things, you'll get the next book. The game will give it to you. But if you ever find yourself without any of these books, or you accidentally lost them, or a creeper blew it up, or something like that, which is totally understandable, they give you the ability to remake them. Okay, so the first recipe we're going to go over is a blank pattern. Alright, patterns are very important to Tinker's Construct. It's how we're going to be able to make our weapons and our tools. It looks just like that. And let me load up my NEI system so that we can see just the Tinker's Construct items over here in NEI. Alright, so this is our blank pattern. It's very important. It's going to show us or it's going to enable us to make different patterns of tool parts, and then that would be the first step in making the tool parts, and then being able to use the different metals and do multi-metal tools that give us a lot of different attributes that we want. So, as you can see, this is just 2 planks and 2 sticks. You can do this in your personal crafting grid. You don't need a table for it, and that will give you one blank pattern. Now, as I said before, if you do lose your books, these next 4 recipes are how you get replacement books. You can use a blank pattern and a page. A piece of paper, and that will give you a replacement book. And again, you can do this in your personal crafting grid. You don't have to do it in a table. Now, at any time, if you lose book 2, you can put book 1 in any crafting table or crafting grid, and it will output book 2. Same thing goes for book 3. Book 3 can be made by crafting book 2. Okay, so if you ever need to replace any of these, it's just going to take you a couple wood and a couple sticks, and you'll be able to recreate all 3 of these books. So, this recipe here is called grout, and grout is going to be a very important recipe for you, and you're going to be using a lot of it to make your Tinker's Construct Smeltery. The Smeltery is a multi-block structure that you will build that will end up replacing your furnace, for the most part, in your game. To make grout, you need to combine clay, sand, and gravel in a pattern like this, and it will make a block of grout. Now, if you smelt, or if you put grout in a furnace, which apparently it went ahead and burned all the way through and smelted all of it, you'll get seared brick. Each one grout, no, sorry, let's double check that real quick. Each recipe produces 2 grout. 1 grout in a furnace produces 1 seared brick. So you can double the amount of grout from these 3 blocks, or these 3 items, but you'll still get 1 for 1 when you're cooking grout to a brick. Okay, and we'll get back to the bricks here in a minute. I technically should have put that over there on that side where we're using the bricks, but it is a very important recipe, and as you saw, it is in your book. When you get through some of the tables and stuff, you'll see that we'll get into the different recipes for the seared bricks that you need to build your smeltery. Okay, let me clear the weather. Nope. There we go. Okay. Even though it's not raining, because I think technically we're in a desert. Oh, it's raining over there. Okay. Alright, so the very first table we're going to make is called a stencil table. And it's very easy. It's a blank pattern and one block of planks, and it will create your stencil table. Now, how we go about using this table, we'll go over there when we're actually making our tools. But it's the very first table that you need to make. You'll need to make a stencil table. You'll need to make a part builder, which again is just a plan, empty pattern, and a log, any log, and then a tool station, blank pattern, and a crafting bench. So all this stuff is very, very cheap to make right here off the bat. You do not need to build a tool forge at this time. Okay, the tool forge can be built later on, and it ends up replacing your tool station. But for you to build the more advanced tools and weapons that this mod offers, you will need a tool forge, and it is 3 blocks of seared brick, 4 iron blocks, and then 1 tool station there in the center. That's how you make the tool forge. But really, all you need are these 3 here at the beginning. There is another item called a pattern chest, which requires just a chest and a blank pattern, and you can use that to hold your patterns if you choose. I just use a normal chest. Now I have learned that if you put it looks just like this here. If you put a pattern chest next to a tool station, any of the patterns that are in the chest can be accessed on the tool station as your... Oh no, sorry, wrong place. If you put it next to your part builder, any patterns that are in your pattern chest, you will be able to pull up in your part builder just like that. So that may be a benefit to you. It is still only a single chest, but yeah, the recipe for it is very simple. Again, just a blank pattern and a chest to get you your pattern chest. Okay, moving on. We talked a little bit about grout. We talked a little bit about seared brick. Before we start working on how to build a smeltery, I need to show you several of the block types that you can build with seared brick. Okay, seared brick, the seared brick block, seared bricks are plural, as I say, is constructed by just dropping 4 seared brick into this pattern here. And that's your most basic building block. You'll need a lot of these, but at any time, if you're building your structure and you just want something the very basic and functional, this is the block you need to create. So as we get into some of these other blocks, especially like the glass blocks, you do not need the glass blocks. You can just use these. You won't be able to see inside of your smeltery, but that won't matter. Okay, now you will need one of these. This is a Smeltery controller. This is the brain of the whole building. And as you can see, it's a just very simple 8 seared bricks in this pattern, and you'll get yourself a Smeltery controller. And as you can see, it's saying invalid structure because it's not connected to the proper setup for it to be able to work. The next item that we'll see here is the seared tank. Now this is basically your fuel repository for the whole system. It uses lava. Each tank can hold up to 4 buckets of lava, or 4,000 millibuckets. And it is a very simple recipe. It takes 8 seared brick and a single piece of glass in the center. You will need one of these. The next item we have are Smeltery drains. Now, drains are how you pull metal out of your smeltery. You could have as many of these as you want. You can have one, you can have half a dozen. Recipe takes 6 seared brick in this pattern right here, and you will get yourself a Smeltery drain. Now, these are more cosmetic to some degree. You can use them as runoff tanks in your smeltery, and I'll get to that in a minute. But this is seared glass, and right here is a seared window. As you can see when I hover over them, it says both of those are empty, so they are receptacles as well, and that's how you build both of those. Now, what do you do after you smelt done your stuff? Well, you need a place to be able to create your tools. So this is a casting table, and a casting table is where you'll do most of your work when you create your tools after you melt down your metal. And the recipe for that is right there. And then a casting basin is for handling very large amounts of liquid metal. Say you've got several blocks worth of iron in your smeltery, and you need to store them. You can pour them straight into this basin, and it will make a solid block of iron, basically 9 ingots worth. So that's the recipe for that. A seared faucet is the connection that you will make between your drain and one of your basins, one of your casting things. You'll have a faucet on the outside of a drain, and then either the table or the basin will be right underneath the faucet. And then last but not least is a casting channel, and this is for moving liquid metal around the smeltery, and we'll get to that in a minute. It's a little bit more advanced, but I do have a setup of it over there to show you kind of how that works. So, how do you build this thing? Like I said, this is a multi-layered building, and we will get to each layer individually here. The first layer, you're going to want to lay out a 3x3 block of seared bricks. This is probably the only place that I'm going to tell you that you should just go ahead and put seared brick, because there's nothing else. There's no benefit to changing up this at all and putting glass or anything else down here. Normally, I will put these 9 bricks into the floor, and I will bury my casting basin and my casting tables in the floor as well, so that they're flush. And you'll see that when we get over to my example one. This requires 9 seared brick, and then however many casting basins or tables that you'll need. You'll need probably at least 1 table if you want to make tools. Okay, second layer. This is probably the most complicated layer. You do not need to fill in the corners, but for the device to work, you need your controller. Excuse me. You need a tank. You'll need at least 1 drain, and you'll need at least 1 faucet. Okay, and then the rest of these can be seared brick, they can be glass, they can be whatever you'd like. As you can see, this block right here, this iron brick, represents the casting basin that we have on the other side. And we have a drain, we have a faucet, and then we have our casting basin where the liquid will flow into it. 12 blocks in total One of them must be the controller, one of them must be the tank. Now, you don't have to put the controller and the tank on on layer 2. You can put it on layer 3, you can put it on layer 4. It's completely up to you. But layers 1 and 2 are all you need to build to start smelting. Anything beyond layer 2 is basically expanding your smeltery to be able to hold more blocks of ore, more slots in the system to be able to smelt down metals to liquids. And we'll get to that in a minute. So every layer that you add onto this expands your ability to melt metal by 9 blocks. So if I was to get some ore, I'll just use this obsidian for right now, and I wanted to melt down this obsidian, it would be able to take 9 blocks of obsidian and melt that down before it could start over. If I had more than just these first 2 layers, if I had 3 layers, then it could do 18. If I had 4 layers, it could do 27. If I had 5 layers, it could do 36. You get the idea. Every layer adds 9 more slots to how much you could smelt at a single time. So, the only ones that are necessary are these first 2. Anything beyond that is just expansion. And as I said, you could do everything in seared bricks at this point, or you can do glass and windows. They are just cosmetic, so you can see inside. So let me run down to the other side, and we will start talking about how to use this machine. Okay, as I said, I like to bury the first layer into the floor. This is a very complex laid out smeltery, and this is just an example of some of the stuff that you can do. You can have drains that feed into glass blocks that feed back into tables, or drains that feed into glass buckets that feed into casting basins. You can have a drain that feeds into a glass block that feeds back into a casting channel that feeds back into the smeltery. So yes, drains go both directions. Right here we have our tank that is full of lava, and we also have our smeltery controller. And as you can see, once that fire, you see that fire on the outside of it going, then you have your controller working. And I have 4 layers of smelting capability. So that means in my smeltery, these 9 blocks right here represent layer 1, these 9 blocks represent layer 2, and as I scroll down, you can see, it's not going to show you because there's nothing there, but for every layer I get 9 more slots that I can smelt things at a single time. And I'll tell you why that's important. Say I just went on a huge mining expedition and I pulled back, I came back with a whole bunch of iron. Okay? Well, if I wanted to melt all this iron down, I'd have to put it all in here. Okay? I'm not going to do that, however, but that means I can smelt all that iron in one shot, and it speeds everything up. Now, I'm going to tell you, the main reason that you're going to want to use this instead of that funky old furnace over there is that when you put 1 ore into a furnace, you get 1 ingot out. If you put 1 ore into the smeltery, you'll get 2 ingots out. The smeltery, because it refines the metal to a much purer state, you get double the output of all of your ores, including the rare ones. So let's talk about the ores real quick. We've got our standard iron, our standard gold. Tinker's Construct also adds a lot more. We've got copper, we've got tin, we've got aluminum. These are nether ores. We've got cobalt, and we've got ardite. Okay, those are the naturally spawning ores that you're going to find out in the world when you mine. Copper, tin, and aluminum you can mine with a stone pick or above. Cobalt and ardite, you have to have at least an aluminite pick or cobalt or ardite or malleinium pick to mine. Okay, these require what's called the cobalt level mining. So we'll get into how to make these. These four metals down here, what are called alloys. Alloys are metals that require you to mix certain metals together to make them. So let's talk about the alloys real quick. These are the alloys that come with Tinker's Construct. The first one is called aluminum brass. It can be used to make the casts, so remember that when we start talking about how to make casts. It requires 3 aluminum and 1 copper to make 4 brass. Now if I was to do that, I would sit there and take my 3 aluminum and my 1 copper, and I'd go and I'd toss that into my smeltery, and when I got done, I'd have 4 ingots worth of aluminum brass sitting in my smeltery. The same thing goes with the rest of these. Bronze. Bronze is a very strong early alloy that you can make if you want to make some early tools before you get into some of the higher end stuff. Make it out of bronze. Don't make it out of iron. Copper, 3 copper and 1 tin equals bronze. And now that we're getting into the materials, it might be a good thing for you to sit there and start reading through the second book. Because the second book talks about the different weapons, the different tools you can make, but also it talks about the materials that you can make the tools out of. So, and I'll go over what each of these mean in a minute, but I want you to see, like, if you were trying to make a very early weapon, obviously you're going to have iron. The durability is only going to be 325. The mining speed is only going to be 6. The base attack is only going to be 1 heart. Now, if I was to come over here to some of our alloys that we can make, bronze, look at that, durability 454, mining speed 7. So already you have a higher durability, and it is better than iron. It's probably one of the best metals that you can build things out of right now at the very beginning. So we'll get into more about what's in that book and what those different stats mean. But that's how you make bronze. That's how you make aluminum brass. There's another alloy called pig iron, which is a little bit more expensive. It requires iron, 1 iron ingot, 1 emerald, and 1 blood. And from what I've understood, the blood can be gotten from 1 adult mob. You can actually get 2 pig iron ingots if you throw 2 pigs inside the smeltery, and once they die, you'll get blood there at the end of it. And well, that sounds a little bit disgusting. Any weapons that you make with this pig iron, you'll get a tasty attribute added to it, so that you'll have a chance for it to drop bacon every time you kill something. So, alemite, we talked a little bit about that. That's the first alloy that can mine cobalt level. It requires 1 obsidian block, 2 iron ingots, and 5 aluminum. So we've got that right here. And then this malleinium is the strongest metal in the game. It has the highest durability, has the highest mining speed, and it requires 1 cobalt and 1 ardite. It's a 1 for 1. So each one you put in, you'll get 1 out. Actually, you know what? I think that may be wrong. That might be 1 cobalt, 1 ardite equals 2 malleinium. So we'll check that recipe right here. Let's see. Okay, it just says that malleinium is made of cobalt and ardite. So, all right. So those are the different alloys that you can make. So when we're talking about the different metals in Tinker's Construct, these are the ores that you can mine, and then these are the alloys that you can make. And then here are the combinations. 3 copper, 1 tin to make bronze, 3 aluminum, 1 copper to make aluminum brass, which you'll be making a lot of that. If you want to start mining this stuff, don't take diamond pick with you. It won't work. Aluminiumite, 1 obsidian, 2 iron, and 5 aluminum. It will say in the book 2 obsidian, but 1 block will give you 2 obsidian ingots. And then, of course, malachite, 1 cobalt, and 1 ardite. So, all right, so real quickly, let's talk a little bit about what it takes to make a tool. Wanted to show you guys this. This is where the drain will take the liquid and put it back into the smeltery, and it just drains out of the tank. Anytime you want to move stuff around, you just click on the faucet on where you want it to move to. Now, let's say I had something else coming in that I wanted to smelt. I just click on that faucet up there, and that'll put it back in this tank up here. So, and then I've got another faucet over here where I could lead that to another table or a basin or what have you. So these runoff tanks that you have off to the side here are great for when you have molten metal in your smeltery and you need to run it off and store it somewhere for the time being until you get a little bit more to make a make a block of metal or to make an ingot. So yes, you can make ingots when you're smelting down your metal. How do you make an ingot? Well, you need to make an ingot cast. So if we were to make an ingot cast, again, casts are how you make your tools. Casts are how you make the different kinds of tools and weapons. You need to do a cast for every single part that you're going to build, but we need to do a cast, don't we? So let's melt up a couple of these. These are the aluminum brass, and if you didn't have any aluminum brass on you, you just melt down 3 aluminum and 1 copper, and that would give you 4 aluminum brass. So as these are melting, you'll see, and this is your inventory of how much liquid metal that you have in your smeltery at any one time. Over here is where your lava supply is that's connected to your tank, and it is glitching at the moment, so sometimes it shows up and sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so all 3 of those ingots smelted down, and right, if you hover over it, it'll tell you you've got 3 ingots worth of molten aluminum brass. I will recommend that every time you start melting stuff down, and if you're just into storage mode and you're just filling up the basins for blocks, make sure you double check how much you've got, because if I was to click on this faucet and fill up those 3 ingots into here, that liquid's going to stay there until I've got 9 ingots worth of liquid in my basin before it solidifies into a block. And there's no way to recover it at this point if it's down there. Now, if I was to run it off into one of my glass chambers and wait until I had enough for 9, then that would work. But so yeah, always make sure that you're keeping an eye on how many ingots worth of metal you've got left in there. Alright, so I'm going to take one of these iron ingots that I've got here. I've got 3 iron ingots worth of that in there. I'm going to plop down an iron ingot onto my casting table. I'm going to click this faucet here, and it's going to fill in around that iron ingot. Now, I haven't tried with too many other types of ingots, but I'm pretty sure that they'll work with any ingot. You click on that, you pull out your cast, and you click on it again. This is both right click, and you pull out your ingot. And that is how you make an ingot cast. Now, I've got 2 more ingots worth of material in there. So what are we going to do with that? Well, we're not going to worry about an ingot cast because we've got a couple of those now. So whenever we get to a point where when we've got a couple of ingot casts, we'll just plop those down on our tables. So anytime we've got spare liquid in there that won't make a full block, I'll just click on my faucet and make an ingot of that type of metal. But we've got some molten aluminum brass in there. Why don't we go ahead and make a tool? In fact, we're going to need more than just 2 to make a full tool set. So how do you go about making a tool? Well, let's talk about that. First, you're going to need some patterns, probably not 64, and you're going to need some kind of rough stone or wood or paper or something like that to make the part. Okay. and you probably won't need 64 of that either. First, we're going to go to our stencil table. Now, our stencil table has every single stencil that you'll need except the ingot stencil. We're going to drop one of those in here, and you'll see as we go through each pattern, it's got all the different patterns that you will need to make your tools. So if we were to go back here, a tool rod, we're going to go ahead, we are going to make it, we're going to need a tool rod for the pattern that we're going to make. We're going to make a basic pickaxe. Okay, so tool rod, we need a pickaxe head, and then we do not need a shovel, an axe head, a sword blade, a wide guard, a hand guard, a crossbar. We need a tool binding. And you may be saying, Cyberneer, how do I know what I need? Well, that's in your book. Book number 2 talks about materials that you can use, tools that you can make, and modifiers that you can apply to those tools. So let's look at our tools. A pickaxe needs a pickaxe head, a tool rod, and a tool binding. That's how I knew that we would need those 3. There are a lot of other tools in here that get into more advanced stuff. A shovel is just like a basic shovel. A hatchet is just like an axe. A mattock is kind of does multiple things. It can work as an axe or a shovel as well as a hoe, but to be honest with you, I haven't used it very much, so I can't comment too much about a mattock. Excuse me. A broadsword is your basic sword. A long sword is a better sword than a broadsword. It also allows you to lunge. A rapier is a very fast weapon. You can attack with it 3 or 4 times per swing that you could do with a long sword. It also ignores armor piercing, and you can jump backwards with it. A dagger you can use as both striking and you can throw them. A frying pan, which is just funny. Excuse me. Battle signs I haven't used. Chisel is something that you can use for shaping blocks. Now you get into the more advanced stuff. A hammer is a mining tool that will mine out a 3x3 area in one hit. It also does very high damage to the undead. A lumber axe is very, very popular. It can take down an entire tree if you cut out the base of the tree. Excavators, excuse me. Okay, sorry about that. That was a rough cough. Okay, an excavator does the same thing. It also will mine a 3x3 area, but of dirt. A scythe will do the same thing in a 3x3 area of for harvesting, as well as attacking mobs. Cleaver, battle axe. As you can see, there's a lot of different stuff that you can do. It's all here in the book. I would recommend you read up on that stuff, and then of course as we were talking about the material traits. This is stuff that you want to look at. If you use if you use anything that is classified as reinforced in your tool, it could be the handle, it could be the binding, it could be the pickaxe head itself. If your material is reinforced, you'll have a 10% chance per level of not using the durability. Okay, if your material has a classification of stone bound, it means that it will mine faster, but it does less damage. Jagged, it'll do more damage, but it mines slower. Like cactus, if you're using cactus as a material, that's jagged. Writable, which is paper. Yes, you can use paper for one of your parts, it will give you one extra modifier slot. And then of course tasty we talked about with the pig iron. And we'll talk about modifier slots in a minute. As you can see, durability for wood is 59. Handle modifier, that means that if you use this for a handle, you're not going to get any kind of bonuses. The full durability is 59. Your mining speed's 2, very, very low, and no damage, base damage attack. Here's where we get into the stonebound or the reinforced. See how the handle modifier, if you use stone for your handle, it'll drop the durability by half. But if you use the handle modifier for iron, it will increase it. The mining speed is very important because this is your base mining speed and your base attack before modifiers. And of course the mining level tells you how much you can mine, up to iron, redstone, obsidian, and then even cobalt, I think, is the 5th one. So here's your jagged. And a lot of these materials, unless it says that it requires the smeltery, so it requires the smeltery, that means that you've got to melt your tool, melt it down. If you were to put this material in the table, which we'll get to in a minute, that's how you make these different parts. If you want to make it out of bone, obsidian, I melt down the obsidian, but it looks like you don't need to. You will need the smeltery to do that. You can use netherrack. Slimes are great. Blue slimes you'll get from the slime islands, and you'll and sometimes they drop down. And then here's a couple other things about slime stuff. Paper, I always use paper for at least my binding because it gives you an additional modifier slot, and modifiers are where Tinker's Construct really shines. So, and then your pig iron. Okay, so before we get into modifiers, let's go ahead and keep working on our tool. We've got our 3 patterns, but we can't put a pattern in the table and expect in our casting table and expect it to come out as a tool, right? So we're gonna have to go to our part builder. Our part builder is, if the book said it requires a smeltery, that means you need to make like a negative of the part. Now if you're using cactus or netherrack or any of that, you're basically just going to take your pattern and then put your material here, and out will pop that that piece. But we're not going to do that. We're going to smelt all of it. So we need to create a stone version or wood version, whatever, of each of these, so that we can create a cast of each of them. Now, if you look here at what the material cost is, that's one item, one block, or one ingot. This is half an ingot. So, since we used half of it to make the binding, this tool rod also requires half. So we're going to take that shard and create our tool rod. Okay? So now we have a tool rod, a binding, and a pickaxe. If we wanted to, we could take all 3 of those and come right over here to our tool station and assemble them into a stone pick. That's not what we want to do. We want to place our stone pick head on our casting table, just like we did with our ingot. Okay? And we want to make casts of each of these. What this will do, you still get your stone head back, but what this will do is allow us to make stronger metal versions of the things that we want to make. Okay, so we don't need these stone tools anymore. We don't need the patterns anymore. We have ourselves a cast. So at this point, we probably don't need the aluminum brass that's back there anymore. So let's go ahead and I'm going to run that off over here into my tank, and you'll see in the tank it shows amount 244. Now that's micro buckets. 144 micro buckets is 1 ingot. So just keep that in mind when you're doing this stuff. and then we've got ourselves, we've reclaimed our aluminum brass. Okay, so at this point we can put these up, and you can save the patterns if you'd like. You can save the parts if you'd like. The casts are the important part. So this is, and these you'll be able to hold on to for forever. So say we want to make, how about if we want to make a pick that we can mine the cobalt and the alumite that's in the nether, right? We can't right now. Even if we had a diamond pick, we couldn't mine that stuff. So let's go ahead and make, let's melt down some of this to make, that's actually supposed to be down here, to make a pick. Now again, we looked at the material cost, right? Material cost for the head was 1. Material cost for the binding was half, and the material cost for the rod was half. So all we need to do is melt down 2 ingots of aluminite, and we will have enough to make our pickaxe. You can mix it up. You don't have to use aluminite for all of it. You just need aluminite for the head. You can use bronze for the base, but let's face it, if you're gonna make aluminite, you need 1 obsidian, 2 iron, and 5 aluminum, and that's going to give you 4 aluminite. If I'm correct in that. Yeah, this one doesn't say how much it gives. So, all right. So as that's melting, let's go over this last book. Okay, this talks about the how to do casting, the construction of your smeltery, and then how it's supposed to kind of look. Some of the other stuff that you can get by smelting stuff down in the smeltery, and then it shows you a couple examples of how to go about casting. And again, it goes over all the different blocks that you can use, along with some other odd ones. Yes, you can smelt down sand, and you'll get a much clearer piece of glass than you will in typical Minecraft. You can melt down obsidian, ender eyes, and combine that with obsidian to make endstone. You can even get glue, which I haven't found a use for yet. But anyway, so we've got our 2 ingots of molten aluminite. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to click on my faucet to pour it into my pickaxe head. I'm going to click on it to pour it into my binding and my rod. And as you saw there, it kind of freaked out. That's just a little glitch. I'm going to pick up my axe head, my binding, and my rod. So now we're going to come over to our tool station. We're going to select our pickaxe, and we're going to assemble it. They don't tell you exactly what you want. There you go. Reinforced 2. Modifiers remaining 3. Okay, so that means that we can modify this up to 3 times. And we have ourselves a pickaxe that we can take into the nether and mine cobalt or ardite. Okay. Now, I did tell you that the forge allows you to make some of the bigger stuff. If you wanted to do a hammer or a lumber axe, you will need the tool forge as opposed to the tool station. And that's where you get into the 3x3 mining. The excavator's a 3x3 miner of dirt, wood, stone, some of the bigger weapons. But let's go over modifiers real quick. Modifiers are, first off, you can't enchant Tinker's Construct weapons or tools. So don't try to put it into a enchanting table and give it silk touch or unbreaking or anything like that. That's why it's so important to look at your material traits when you're building stuff. And you see that durability right there? If you use aluminum as a handle, it's going to multiply the durability by 2.5, giving it a full tool durability of 3,000. So, alright, so modifiers. These are all the different things that you can add to a tool to give it to increase its durability, to increase its speed, to give it different abilities, even beyond the fact of what enchanting can do to a weapon. The first step, if you add a diamond to a tool, you will get 500 extra durability tacked on, as well as if it's not at level 3, it will increase the mining level to level 3, allowing you to harvest or mine diamonds. An emerald is even better than a diamond in the fact that it will double your current durability, but it also only increases it to level 2. Speed, if you want something that is basically the equivalent of efficiency, then you add redstone to a weapon or a tool. Not useful on weapons. And it will stack. So if you wanted to use all three modifier slots for speed, you could take the speed up to 150, because each slot is up to 50. It requires 50 redstone dust. You can use either the dust or the blocks. So whenever you're looking at these modifiers, look at it, see if it's stackable. You can't put more than one emerald. You can't put more than one diamond. So this is another very, very big favorite of people. If you get a ball of moss and attach it to a tool, it will regenerate itself. It basically takes the durability that you've lost in using it and auto repairs itself. It is stackable. It is stackable. Interesting. I have never tried stacking moss before. Maybe that makes it repair itself faster. And you may be asking, well, how do I get a moss ball? Well, that's right here. A ball of moss, basically take 9 pieces of mossy cobblestone that you find at a dungeon spawner or anywhere else, and you'll get yourself a ball of moss. The other one is auto smelting. If you put a lava crystal at the end of a tool, anything you mine will automatically be smelted. It also sets mobs on fire. You can't combine that with silky for obvious reasons. So if you're mining something like iron and it pops, then it'll pop out an ingot. I don't recommend this because you're going to want to do your stuff in the smeltery to get double the output, but it is there. It does help. Say, for instance, you could put this on a hatchet and chop down trees and get charcoal. You could put this on a shovel, and as you're digging up sand, you're basically collecting glass. So there are a lot of really good features with this, with the auto smelt. And to make the lava crystal, 1 bucket of lava, 4 blaze rods, and 4 fire charges. A couple more. Luck, which is basically adds fortune or looting depending on the tool type. This does not stack, and you can add it as either lapis or lapis blocks. You can add sharpness to a tool. Mainly only works with the long blades, not the rapiers and stuff. Again, you can add it as either nether crystal or quartz crystal or quartz blocks. You can add fiery aspect using blaze powder. This is stackable as well. Every 5 powder adds another second to the flame. This is another favorite. You get an erotic bone, which you can get these off of wither skeletons. Every time you use your weapon and you damage a monster, you get healed. 1 heart per bone, and it is stackable. Silky, we were talking about you can't combine auto smelting with silky. You can add silk touch using Tinkerer's Construct. It requires a silky gem, and to make a silky gem you need string and a small nugget of either gold or aluminum brass, and that will make your silky cloth. And then you need 4 silky cloths around an emerald to make a silky jewel. So once you have that silky jewel, you can apply it to the tool and you will get silk touch, basically. You can add an obsidian plate to a tool to give it more, to give it reinforcement. You can add a piston to a weapon to add knockback, which I find hilarious. And then you can add an ender pearl and some obsidian to give your weapon a beheading attribute. Bane of Arthropods is with a spider eyeball, and Smite is extra damage to undead, and you can do that by getting consecrated soil, which you make graveyard soil with zombie flesh, bone meal, and dirt combined, and then you cook it, and then that becomes consecrated. And then don't worry about that, that's for another mod. So those are the different modifiers. Now, as we said before, if we looked here and put our tool in, we had 3 modifiers. You have to pick 3. Okay, you have all those different things that you can choose from to do 3. Now there are other, like I said, if you used paper on your binding, well, that gives you 4. There are also a couple other things you can do to add on modifier slots, and those are a little bit more advanced. In this case, with this tool, what I would recommend is if you have a diamond or an emerald, I would put one of those each, and I would put moss, because this is basically going to be a work pick. You're going to use this in the nether. If you don't have either a diamond or an emerald, or you only have one, I would use that 3rd slot for redstone and speed up the mining speed. But you definitely want at least 1 ball of moss. So if we were to modify those, let's go ahead and grab some of this, and we'll go ahead and grab a diamond as well, just to wrap things up. So I'm going to put that there. I'm going to add a diamond, so that's going to take up one of my modifier slots, and it adds my durability up to 1200. I'm going to add my moss to give it auto repair, and then I'm going to add redstone to it, and yep, to add speed to it. And you can, and you may say, well, that's a lot, but you know what? You can use blocks too to add 9 at a time. And now it won't let me do any more because I've already filled up all 3 of my slots. So, and that is that as far as the tools go. You can mix and match and do a lot of different combinations. One other thing I did want to mention, you may have seen these little hearts that you picked up whenever you killed a monster. These are called red heart canisters, and I would recommend you looking into them. They add a permanent heart increase to your health bar. So if you've got 9 hearts, you apply this little thing to yourself, then you'll basically get another heart. And you'll need a jeweled apple, a neurotic bone, an empty canister, and that miniature heart item. And the heart canister is just 4 aluminum in a square. The jeweled apple is 4 diamonds and an apple. And then that's how you make your heart canister. So if I were to switch into survival, I've got my hearts down there. If I were to come over here and right click on that, you can see where that first heart turns orange, and if you come over here, I've got my heart canister there. It's a permanent health increase. You can have up to 9 of these. So, and there's also more heart canisters in Tinker's Construct. There's yellows and greens. Yellow is a regular heart canister with a yellow one and a notch apple. Green doesn't have a recipe yet, so maybe that will be an add-on in the future. Yellow heart canisters don't count until you fill up the reds. So, but that's what the heart canisters are for. All right, well, I hope you guys have enjoyed this little mod spotlight. Like I said at the beginning, Tinker's Construct is a great addition to Minecraft. It allows you to do so much more with your metals, and allows so much more customization with the different types of tools and weapons that you can make. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you explore the different possibilities, and I would love to hear about the different combinations of things that you make, and just interesting mixes of tools or weapons that you can find that are kind of thinking outside the box. So that's going to wrap it up for this tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed. Of course, all likes are appreciated, and we will catch you next time. Thanks for watching, guys.